Hey everybody, welcome back to Gone Outdoor Radio. You are listening on Kello News Talk or KWSN in Sioux Falls or the Mighty 790 in Fargo, Moorhead and surrounding communities. Scotty Brewer, Kyle Agri of Brewer Agri Outdoors. This segment, we're going to chat with somebody. We haven't had him on for, I don't know how long it's been.
Been a couple months.
Jeff Miller, he is a conservationist. He's a writer. He's a family man. He is a hunter. He does a lot of pretty much everything in the outdoors, and he really likes to share about it, and he likes to educate others, which is why we have him on. Thanks, Jeff, for coming on Gone Outdoors again.
It's always a pleasure.
So recently, you wrote an article, which it really piqued my interest, which is bow hunting on a budget. And the reason why it piqued my interest is because bow hunting seems to be growing. I don't know what the growth rate is, percentage, but it sure seems to be growing more and more every year, which is good, which is a really good thing. You know, North Dakota rifle licenses are getting a little tougher, and if you really want to hunt every year, you got to bow hunt. There's a lot of reasons to go out and bow hunt, and there's a lot of people that don't know much about it and don't have any of the gear. So let's talk about your program a little bit. You know, sky's the limit these days on gear, but you don't have to go out and buy the best of everything. There's a lot of other ways to go about it, correct?
That's entirely correct. And you know, bow hunting is not unlike most other outdoor pursuits. Is you can spend a lot of money really fast. You know, bows, I remember when I was a kid growing up in South Central Minnesota, going into the archery shop and seeing bows that were $500 new, and it just seemed unfathomable at that point. And now, you know, some of the top of the line bows are $2,000. You know, and that's an awful lot of money, and I think that would dissuade, you know, people to kind of getting into it if they don't know if they're going to like it or not. You know, dropping $2,000 for a bow is pretty tough.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, and to your point, my very first bow when I was a teenager was a Bear recurve bow that my father had bought at a thrift store somewhere. And I sat in the backyard and I shot that thing forever and ever until I got good at it and I decided I liked it. You know, but you don't have to go out and buy the best of everything to get into it.
In the store I mentioned, you know, used bows are a great option. So used bows, or compound bows especially, are like computers or new cars. As soon as you buy it, A, it's going to depreciate very quickly, and B, the quote-unquote technology is going to be outdated very soon. Now, that doesn't mean that the bow isn't usable. I mentioned in the article that I've been shooting the same bow since 2005. And every year I think about buying a new one, and then I think, for the price of a new bow, I could probably go on a hunting trip somewhere. So I've been shooting the same bow for a long time, and it certainly is not the bow that makes the archer. It's the archer, and you know, I would rather see somebody shooting an older bow, used bow, and practicing a lot and getting competent with it than somebody buying a brand new bow and only dusting it off a week before the season and then going out and trying to shoot a deer. So it really is more about practice, getting consistent, and getting to know the bow than it is buying success through buying the top-of-the-line gear.
Jeff, there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said. I think the proficiency of the archer with his tool is absolutely not even close to the first and foremost in his or her success when they hit the field. No question. One of the things I'm wondering, Jeff, is there's a difference, right, between buying cheap gear versus being really intentional and knowing what your gear is capable of and being able to get something that fits your style of hunting. Is that correct?
You know, like I said, I shoot an old bow, and if you would give that bow to a top-of-the-line archer, he's going to shoot that better bow better. But 97% of us aren't going to get every ounce of technology out of the gear. So, you know, it's more about being consistent, knowing what you want. You know, I shoot a compound bow. You mentioned shooting a Bear recurve, and that was what my dad started with. And a lot of people started with recurve bows, and then the compound came out. You know, probably the early to mid 80s is when that really exploded, and it made shooting a little bit easier. You know, it's got the let off, you can use sights, and there's been a lot of technology upgrades since then, but realistically, a compound bow is a compound bow, and you'll see YouTube videos of people shooting 100 yards with a compound bow, and that's fun to do on the target range. But when it comes to hunting a living, breathing animal, I think as bow hunters, we owe it to the animal to get as close as we can to make a lethal shot, every time. And I think working on getting close to deer or elk or moose or whatever you're hunting, getting your woodsmanship is way more important. I see it a lot is people want to get into bow hunting. They go buy all this stuff and then don't learn how to hunt deer, get frustrated, and then they're on Facebook Marketplace selling that bow.
Jeff, is it safe to say that as an archer, as any hunter, as any outdoor person, we want to have quality gear? We don't want to buy junk. We want to have quality gear. We want to take good care of it. And most importantly, we want to know how to use it. And quality gear doesn't have to be the model that just came out here in 2025, right?
And that's right. And you're right about quality. Don't go on Amazon and buy cheap broadheads, for instance. The broadhead is the most important part of the bow hunter's gear, right? Because that's what's going to be doing the hitting the animal. So don't go buy cheap broadheads that are made overseas somewhere. You want to buy better broadheads. But again, there's a lot of good gear out there. I would say 80% of the archery gear is good gear. There's always that bottom, kind of junk. And I think anybody can look at that and realize that that's not really going to work. But you're right. A lot of bow manufacturers have what they call their midline, models, which are probably half the price of the top of the line. And then same with accessories. A bow sight, is going to last you forever, really, unless you bust it. Or arrows are consumables. You want to buy good arrows, but you don't have to buy the most expensive arrows. The most expensive arrows are made for, the Olympic archers. When you watch them shooting at 80 yards, they need very good arrows. Again, hunting, you want good arrows, you want consistent arrows, and those are easy to find. Most arrows, again, are going to be very well built. So, and I always tell people, if you don't know what you're doing, go to a store that specializes in archery, talk to the employees there. They're going to know what to do, and tell them right up that you're not looking to, spend the top of the line, because, and kind of be honest with them what you're looking for. If you're looking to hunt deer out of a tree stand in northern Minnesota, it's different than if you're looking to hunt pronghorn antelope, in Wyoming. So know what you want to do with your bow, and then go in and talk to people, or find a friend that has done it too. Archers are very open and, generally trying to help other archers succeed.
Jeff, that's all great advice, which is why we wanted to have you on. And another reason why people should maybe think about not going out and buying the top of the line stuff right away is because they might not like it. They might not like the sport. They might not like the gear, whatever it is. This way they don't have a whole bunch of money invested into it. If they do decide they like it, then they can grow with it as needed. So there's lots of options for them. Jeff, where can people find some of your writing? Where can they follow along with what you do?
So the easiest place to find it is on my Facebook page, just Jeffrey Miller. But I write for a variety of publications. It seems like now. I think this last one was published in Grit magazine, which is kind of a good homesteading, rural living type magazine. And at the end of the day, which I think I kind of really wanted to come through in this last story was, enjoy the outdoors. And like you said, I started bow hunting years and years ago because at that time, where I lived in Minnesota, the gun season was 2 days long. It was a Saturday and a Sunday, shotgun only. And I waited to hunt deer all year, and I would hunt for 2 days, and then it'd be over for the year. And I wanted to hunt more than that, so I started shooting a bow, and because then I got a 3-month season. So, and at the end of the day, this year I just, the bow season from last Friday in North Dakota. This is my 30th year bow hunting, and I'm probably more excited now than I was back then to get in the woods. And I think that at the end of the day is what's important is the love of the sport, the love of the landscape, the love of the fields, the trees, everything, and start bow hunting because you really want to learn more about nature and get closer to not only game animals but non-game animals, and just get to experience a lot of things that you don't get to experience sitting in your house or in your backyard.
Amen, Jeff. Amen. All right. Thank you very much for coming on Gone Outdoors. We really appreciate it.
It's always a good time, guys.
Stick around. We'll be back with more Gone Outdoors after the short break. Looking for somewhere to get all your fishing information in one place? Onyx Fish Midwest has something for you. Search for new fishing areas with filtering features such as species, abundance, trophy potential, lake survey info, regulations, and area insights are just a click away.
Getting to your target lake has never been easier with access points and public land ownership clearly marked on Onyx Fish. Mark and customize waypoints and weather for your exact location. Use code BA Outdoors to get 20% off Onyx Fish Midwest at onyxmaps.com.